Okay. Attack on Titan is so good.
It's so good.
It's gotten so good, dude. Oh my god.
Everything is so perfectly placed. Like, everything, like, from...
When they give us the information.
Yeah, and, getting, obviously, Mr. Cassava at the very end of last episode. And then as soon as this episode started, and I heard someone being talked to, referred to, you know, as a Beast Titan, looking upon the kids, knowing Zeke was out there, I was like, how perfect would that be in placement of a character of, we just got them. Of course that's going to be them, even though we're just seeing their back.
Yeah.
And, so good.
If you don't like it, you've got to change it. And hey.
He is. He's doing that.
Man.
It's
a lot of, it's not a lot of information to digest. It's a lot of perspective to digest for me right now.
Yeah, totally. Because if you think about it, we've talked about it a lot. That yes, everyone might have a similar broad end goal, but not everyone has the same idea of how to go about it.
Yeah. Or the intricacies
broad
end goals in like...
Broad end goal as in protect Eldia.
What's right. Yeah. Like what the answer is, right? Mm-hmm. To stop the pain.
How do you best save Eldia? How do you best protect your people? How do you best save the rest of the world? What are you willing to sacrifice?
There's so many layers to it. Like, if I'm honest, I'm just trying to really understand fully and appreciate, before I, like, try to really put it into words. So while I'm trying to digest it, I just want to say I hope that Grisha, and his wife did actually have a dance that was performed and practiced just in case anybody accused them of being restorationists.
Oh yeah, like, look at what we do at dance club.
Yeah, this is our social dance club. Like, these are our moves. Like, this is our tradition, you know. I would love to see just an episode of them going off dancing, seeing what they have, you know.
I want to go back to every time the Zeke has ever referenced father.
Yeah.
Because we were always thinking every single time, and it might not have fit in the context now. If we rewatched it, we might see that he, at that moment, was not referring to Grisha.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because he's definitely said father a handful of times. Whenever Eren was involved, of course, the context would probably be that it was Grisha. But I feel like there were other times that he referred to father. And I would just love to, maybe on a rewatch of the show, I will notice that and I will realize that, and that'll just totally open way more, like, as if I'm writing a paper about it and really, like, analyzing it, breaking it up. Like, when he says that, this is who he's referring to. Gosh.
It's interesting, like, this late in a series, like, to have a character who, is being given so much exposition and time to shine, like, this late, and it's completely intentional, and I'm trying to make sure I mean it before I say it, in the sense that, like, Zeke's character is up there with some of the best in the show.
It felt worth the wait.
Yeah.
Like,
but it didn't feel like, oh, here's a bunch of exposition to make you feel this way about a character. It was like, we had the information, and this was just filling in the blanks.
This was to kind of, we've been asking ourselves, when did Zeke and Eren actually have a conversation? Why would Eren agree to Zeke's plan? What even is Zeke's plan for Eldia? Like, we had so many questions, and that whole backstory basically filled in, I would say, most of the blanks.
Yeah. I'd say so as well. I'm still trying to, like, figure out, do you think, like, do we 100% trust and believe Eren in thinking that this is,
very good question. That is a very, very, very good question.
Because, like, okay, here's a question.
The lock.
Let's unpack it in a different way. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with Zeke's, like,
the euthanization plan?
Of, yeah, like, do you think, or can you understand where he's coming from, and or could you argue better solutions?
So I can see where he's coming from the better to not have even been born kind of perspective.
Yeah.
I would say some people could at some point in their life have maybe felt major depression or a lack of wanting to continue on, a lack of, like, why was I even born? I had to suffer so much. It's not even worth it. I don't want other people to suffer the way that I did. It's not super hard to digest that information or that feeling from him. And it reminds me also of like Reiner. And I feel like Reiner would probably be on board with this euthanization plan if Zeke tried to recruit him. But he hasn't. I don't think we've seen any evidence that Reiner knows about this plan. So
it's a tough situation, right? Because it's not just like these people are hurting and their answer to that is to never be born. And like, I think that in one way I can see it in like a depression sense, or like in that level, and how Reiner was, had a gun in his mouth at one point, you know? But at the end of the day, even though this sounds stupid and they're fictional characters in a story, I will never know what it is like to be an Eldian living in Marley.
No.
I will never know what it is like to face the like accusations, the disgust thrown at you, and the torturous like living conditions in like a, you know, containment sense. And it's hard because like on one hand you're like, okay, well the people who are fucking doing all the wrongs to the people who have done nothing wrong in their life are the evil ones, right? They're the ones who need to change. But you can't ignore the fact that there is this supernatural element to this race of people, and because of that, they will always be a frightened like populace.
So Eren knows this plan.
Yes.
I don't think, you know how I said that I feel like Eren isn't really telling, like, the Jaegerists anything, and that they broke him out of their own volition?
Yes.
I don't think the Jaegerists know this.
Oh,
All.
Of course,
like,
yeah.
I think this even fits even more that Eren's just kind of being like, using them as, oh, you want to help me? Cool.
I think the
like,
Jaegerists should rename themselves the Grishaists, even though, or the G-Jaegerists.
I mean, or just
because
the
I think
new
that
Eldians. Because they want this new future for Eldia.
But it's very similar to what Grisha, I think, was going for as well.
What does Eren say? He gets to the point in this conversation with Zeke where Zeke's like, oh, so you agree with Father? And he's like, no, I think Father was wrong, and I think that I was wrong too, as the son that he raised. And I think, honestly, it's just so interesting how kind of... so I wrote this down on that thought of how... I think maybe 5-6 episodes ago, we were like, okay, how did Eren do this massive jump in terms of changing? And I think that this episode definitely helped the stepping stones in place a little bit for Eren and how he got to the way he is. It helped a lot in terms of Zeke, but it brought me back. Their conversation at the wall, Zeke and Eren, reminded me back to right before...
Their conversation in Marley?
No. Right before Eren comes to Marley
gotcha,
and his conversation with Armin and Mikasa, where Armin's like, maybe if we talk to everyone in the world, and Eren was like, very flat out and realistic, no, they're always going to be scared of us, we're always going to be a threat, there's always going to be war because of this power we have and how scared of it everyone's going to be forever. And so then, it doesn't seem like a giant jump for him to agree with this plan that would basically get rid of that kind of the Titan in general, which is what everyone's scared of. Get rid of the Titan. That's what everyone's scared of. That's what will cause war. That's what will cause suffering. It doesn't seem as big of a jump anymore for Eren to have changed in this way.
Like, obviously, this just goes to show how the writing is just great, but it's so convenient. It's the perfect, it's the perfect, scripted moment, as you'd say, because it's like, okay, how could you couldn't make this situation more perfect. You have somebody with Grisha has made the situation with apparently not even intending to, made it so that there's a royal blood, Eldian with the powers of the Titans, as well as somebody who isn't of royal blood who has the founding Titans power and has bridged the gap. And so it's a little bit scripted in a sense. I wanted to go back a little bit before when we were talking about just the plan of the plan of Zeke's here.
Euthanization plan?
Yeah, the euthanization plan. I had a few thoughts and questions about it. Okay. So my first line of thinking was oh, if you could change memories, anatomy, you could try to do what the king did again. Everybody, memories are all gone. That, the rest of the world remembers. You can't. That's not a great idea, right? Then I had a question. Okay, if you stop everybody from having kids, like make them enable, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 questions. 1, that definitely means you solve the problem of Titan powers passing down, because if I remember correctly, it's passed down into a newborn. It's not just plopped into an already born Eldian, right?
It's born with someone.
So that leads me to: is there a possibility that we come to the conclusion of like we are walking towards the inevitable failure of this plan, and all the Titan powers are going to inevitably reside in Historia's child because she is currently pregnant? And if they make it so Eldians are no longer to have babies going forward, and the last baby born Eldian is within Historia, and like we get rid of those powers, like Eren dies, they're not going to everybody else, and then this baby is born.
The timing could be totally screwed up, honestly.
Like, it's interesting though.
If Eren and Zeke do not survive until they can do this,
yeah,
then the plan is thwarted. It's over. And what we have at the very end of this episode is Zeke getting blown up. Obviously, there's question marks there of why you would do that, and we can get into it more. But you're right to say that there are major flaws of how to actually get this to work out when Zeke and Eren haven't touched yet, and they haven't made this decree and renounced the war and euthanized the Eldians.
Like,
I'm sure there's other pregnant Eldians, not just Historia, you know?
Yeah.
There are other people who are already pregnant.
But they don't have the royal blood aspect, and there could be like a lot within that, you know.
But if you do the euthanization and someone's already pregnant, what happens? You know,
well,
if they
no,
can
that's
no
my
longer
point.
Carry a child.
That's
and you're saying that the royal blood of Historia might possibly protect that child from whatever would happen if the anatomy changes,
or would like allow them to be like so like a thing, like, I don't know, like a gray area in regards to the rules that have been made. Maybe it's part of their plan in general. I still think that Historia has to tie into this somehow, and we haven't seen really things with her.
We've talked about that. I mean, how is it that she also kind of completely does this route that everyone's confused about? You know, she's obviously thinking about something or doing things on purpose. It wasn't true love and wanting to go have a baby for romantic reasons that caused her to, at that time, go find this man that she knew from her childhood and then have a baby. Like,
honestly, okay, which route do you like better? Zeke's euthanization plan or Ben's global contractual agreement that everybody leaves, everybody works together to advance technology until they can make space travel exist, and then all the Eldians can just go to a different planet?
Honestly, they should probably do that, but I do have to say that for Historia to immediately go get pregnant doesn't it make you think that maybe she knew about this euthanization plan even more?
It is,
and she
so
wanted to have another kid of royal blood for some reason.
That's what I was kind of alluding to. Because it seems like that. It seems like a conversation could have happened between Eren and Historia after Eren talked to Yelena, but before Eren talked to Zeke. And if that's the case, Eren could have gone into the Zeke conversation that they had in Marley, knowing a little bit about what was going to go down, and agree with it, with the hidden stipulation that Zeke doesn't know, that he already has another bloodline baby in the works.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot.
There is a lot. What else have I written? So back to the stepstone thing that I was saying.
Yeah.
I just wanted to compliment the writer, obviously, that I feel like the stepstones that have been created in terms of like the path that people the thinking has gone in terms of specifically Eren and Zeke, because those are the major thinkers I guess we're getting, and like that we are seeing giant jumps. And we're like, okay, how did they get there? Why would Zeke choose to turn in his parents? You know, giant jumps. Why did Eren choose to go to Marley and side with Zeke? And I feel like how you get there successfully is that the author had to have written all of the transitions of thinking first and then taken some out.
Mm-hmm. It's like...
And then placed them in a flashback that you're going to get later on. It's so purposeful.
It's like you wrote a page or typed a page, then you highlighted certain bits, cut it, and then put it down at the bottom of the page. Mm-hmm. Like, it's great. It's really refreshing in piece of media, you know?
Yes.
And that's why I think that I'm enjoying this so much. I couldn't stop smiling when I saw Aaron and Zeke next to each other standing.
And then the baseball was handed over.
I'm just so freaking happy to be here. There were so many little moments that I sometimes wish that, like, while the show was going, we could see the timestamps of the episode so I could write those down to get specific lines, because it's a lot harder to find if you're just skipping through and you get the annoying mouse sound. But because we got like a line about talking about how Ymir like touched something. And, like
Saver says that.
Yeah.
And we both said something. When he said something, we were like, interesting. He's referring to it as the devil of all earth.
We have to get there, right? Like
into this is actually what happened all those years ago?
Yeah.
I could see them maybe giving us that. Maybe.
If memories are connected kind of thing. Like would there be any revelation in learning a potential true intent of what the power of the Titans were for, you know?
Would you want to learn that before you go about this plan to basically cease Titan power's existence?
I don't know.
Would we learn that information? Would Zeke and Aaron... When Zeke and Aaron touch, they have this whole plan. They haven't touched yet. They're like, we're not gonna do that.
They're
yet.
abstinent.
Yeah.
They're waiting for marriage.
They're waiting for marriage. And...
Ew. Incest marriage. Sorry. Okay.
Didn't have to say that.
Okay. Go on.
Yeah. So if they're just not touching yet, and now I need to get back on my train of thought.
Yeah, if they're not touching yet, they're waiting to touch.
Then they don't yet have the ability maybe to see what that actual thing was. And maybe once they have this whole plan that once this magical handhold happens, that they will create this renouncing war, euthanization plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's them putting a lot of, like, they're really, like, putting all their eggs in one basket of what's going to happen during this handhold when they haven't done it yet, you know? And they don't really know exactly what's going to happen, what to expect, what they're going to see.
Yeah.
They could see something that's gonna they could see that. They could see the truth of all of this and how this came to be. Devil of all earth, God, what did the original Ymir want or do? What was that something that she touched? And if you're going with something that she touched as a line in this episode, and then we're getting the idea that Zeke and Aaron are about to touch something.
Yeah.
They're maybe about to tap into this memory or this origin story. And what are they going to want to do plan-wise with whatever information they learn from that?
Can you think of any third-party plan here that Aaron could be, like, working on?
Trying to do?
Like, and not just, like, broad ideas, like, specific, like, we have the scouts, we have the Jaegerists, we have Zeke's plan, we know Marley's intentions. Is there any, we have so many different ideas of how to resolve everything. Is there something that Aaron could be thinking of that we don't know?
At the moment, I feel like it depends on if his mood and attitude is performative at all. Because I feel like the mood that he is portraying at the moment totally goes along with this whole, like, it's very cynical, very pessimistic. The only way we can protect everyone is by making sure no one can ever have babies. Like, his kind of way he's portraying himself at the moment, I feel like totally locks on to a person that would probably agree with this plan. So it depends on if he is, in fact, being performative, which we talked about last episode. Was he performative at all when he was speaking to Mikasa and Armin?
And, like, again, if you didn't listen to last episode's discussion, and you're listening to this one, like, I completely am ready for and understand if there isn't, like, a secret underlying thing there. It's just, it's happened so much that I feel like we need to consider it. And the only reason that I want to bring it up in this episode is because of how emotional Zeke is about this plan. And when somebody's emotional about a plan, they're easily manipulated.
Easily manipulated. Eren has cast off emotions.
Yeah.
At least in a performative way. And Zeke has not. Zeke, Zeke's face, I was about to say, you should have seen. Of course you've seen.
Yeah.
Zeke's face when Eren was like, and I was wrong too. And he was like, oh my gosh, brother, you know? And it was a very great moment. But Zeke's emotions are fully into this plan. Like his happiness, his everything, all of his suffering is like boiled down into this plan. And Eren could totally just be fucking with him, you know?
Could be.
Like, in a way. Because Eren is not showing us that he's emotionally invested in this plan, because we're not really seeing any emotions from him. The last time we really did see an emotion from him was when Armin said that he was also following someone, also being a to a bastard or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that was the word.
I think so.
And he turned to Armin and he looked like an actual emotion on his face instead of just dead eyes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's triggering to him for someone to say to him, are you the livestock slave to Zeke's plan?
Yeah.
And to show that little break happening when kind of that's being brought up of Eren's part in this plan and why is he going along with it, could feed into the theory that Eren's doing this plan in order to get somewhere. And maybe it's like on a train. Maybe it's on a train and he is going to stop at a train stop before Zeke's plan is reached.
Yes, that is the possibility at hand. But like, I want to stop thinking that way if I cannot think of
another idea
reason
of what he would want to be doing.
Exactly. And
which I can't really, I don't think.
I mean, in one hand, the possibilities are endless. It's just if it's strong enough of a possibility for you to be this confident about it, because I don't think I ever understood or comprehended the full extent of what you can do with the powers of the Founding Titan mixed with royal blood. That the whole idea of being able to stop an a pandemic from happening and vanquish a disease by changing human anatomy is something I like. That it's so nuanced and specific and detailed of a change that you have so many options are opened up now, right? Mm-hmm. So many possibilities.
So I have a thing to bring up now.
Can you change temperament in people? I don't know.
Was there already a change to anatomy for Titans to not be able to reproduce? Was that already a plan in order to keep the amount of Titans down? Maybe that was the king's original plan, you know? Maybe if I make sure Titans can't have kids, then they won't multiply. But what happened? Marley figured out how to create, make Eldians into Titans.
That's a good point, yeah.
So maybe that was already a step on this plan of euthanization, and it just didn't work out. Like, if we think about Ymir, and then that, didn't it say, to her kids, or she created these other 9 Titans? Was Ymir, we talked about it, was it like a birthing situation? Was it just when she died, it went into 9 different Eldian babies? We don't actually know. But I think it is interesting to bring up that with this anatomy part of the conversation,
we don't know if things were changed already.
We don't know if things were changed already. Obviously, we got a little bit about, they were possibly changed in order to fight certain epidemics.
We don't know if, was the whole year limiter a stipulation that was added? Was that an addendum?
You can only live 13 years in this Titan form. Was that an added stipulation somehow with the controlling of the anatomy? Yeah, totally could have been.
It's very interesting. And if the possibility of ceasing reproduction exists, then it's just, there's so much that you can think of. If you can change the temperament of people, then that goes down the same route of saying, then what's the point in living? They shouldn't be born at all. This is still the best way to do it. Zeke's plan. Yeah. I can think of things that could go wrong with Zeke's plan, but it's very easy to think of things that can go wrong with any plan. I am having a lot of trouble in the moment right now thinking of anything that it seems better than Zeke's plan at the moment. That isn't just wipe everybody else out you know?
Right, because it is kind of doom and gloom of what Aaron said years before he went to Marley, is that they're always going to fear us and they're always going to want to fight us, or they're going to want to be our fake friends in order to protect themselves.
What do you do after you do this, right? What do you do after Zeke and Aaron hold hands? And which, again, I think, I completely think that the visual we're gonna get is like a blood pact, both slitting like blood in the hand and shaking hands.
I could totally see that. You're right.
I like, what is the plan after you do that, right? You change the anatomy of every Eldian, and then what? You just tell everybody, and they're like, "Oh, sick, sweet, good plan." Like, what comes next after that's done? How do you ensure that the changes you made stay? How do you have to like bury yourself in cement or in a wall to make sure nobody can get to you or get to the founding Titan power again? Like, or do you just try to kill yourself?
They'd have a leg up in terms of it possibly being a positive outcome.
Yeah.
In terms of transparency of information. I think the first king's, one of his major failures was wiping all of the memories in order to have people realizing that they didn't know the truth to something, which then makes them want to dig deeper, fight against something. Why are you keeping something from me? Make you feel more like livestock. And it had a lot of repercussions to it. So some people could say that maybe being transparent would have a more positive effect. I'm not saying it would have enough of a positive effect.
Yeah. It's really difficult because it's a really delicate situation too, because unlike we see in Marley, within the island which was called Paradise this episode. I didn't forget that. I saw that, and it might have been a mistranslation, but I saw Paradise. The people living on Paradise when we first started the series, of course that there are scouts and like Titan attacks and people die, but we've seen time and time again people being like, no, I don't want to fight. I want to go home and enjoy my life with my family. Mm-hmm. Like, people who aren't even like, of course there's severe poverty within the walls and everything too, and like the class system isn't great, but there are like lives that are being lived to like a happiness, and it definitely argues and fights and toys with the idea of, okay, so you're potentially depriving people of this in the future, but I don't know, it's delicate.
The lives on Paradise, whatever you want to call it, the lives of those people are definitely, while their memories were wiped, very peaceful and positive and good. There were no enemies other than Titans, which they had the walls. So the Titans, couldn't get to them. And the only expeditions that the scouts went on was just to go outside of the walls, which a lot of people deemed not even necessary. And, I am not surprised that Aaron was raised in a different way to how Zeke was raised. Yes, at the end of the day, Aaron had a similar thing happen to him to what Zeke did, and they can, feel some camaraderie with that. But for most of Aaron's life, he was raised with a loving father who was a doctor that saved people in the area and in the rest of the island, and he had a great mom, and he had Mikasa there, and everything was really positive and nice. And if you start to think of, well, why wasn't Grisha training him from the beginning? Well, imagine what it was like for Grisha going from a place where he constantly feared, constantly felt like he or his family could be killed at any moment, and he was facing all of these faces and lives that he was trying to protect every day. He was seeing them. And now he's on the island and no one knows about it. Everyone's peaceful. Everyone's happy. He's not having to face the severity and the realness of the situation anymore. Of course, he could go 12 years without truly making, any type of attempt to indoctrinate Aaron.
Well, last time he tried to indoctrinate his kid, he almost got killed, And
maybe he tried to do something different with Aaron, but then it was too late. Like, it was so sudden, and Aaron was so confused because he'd never seen his father act that way. And it's because, and maybe Grisha was trying to, maybe if I raise this one right, and I give him time and love, and he respects me, then I'll have a different outcome, and maybe I can use him, for lack of a better term, to be the one that saves the world. And then it seemed like he was so suddenly, I need to do this right now, this is urgent.
Yeah.
Aaron has cast off emotions. Aaron has cast off emotions. Aaron has cast off emotions.
Aaron has cast off emotions.